Last time in the Soviet Republic of Arab map, we took a perfectly alright planet, carved it up viciously for iron and coal, and made the best thing ever. Steel. Isn't it just wonderful? Anyway, the Council of Ministers have recovered from their meeting room insanity and finally convened to find out if that carving the planet part is even necessary. Can we actually not build any mines and still meaningfully make steel at the mill? Our citizens are already lining up for a metal spectacle that will answer this particular question once and for all. Well, let's just restate as fact that turning labor and electricity directly into steel is incredibly profitable. But we also know that building the entire steel complex is a bit much, so we might want to try importing some of that coal or iron instead. After all, the customs is just around the corner, and local deposits are often out in the boonies. In 1985 Arab map prices, coal takes up 2/3 of the cost of running a steel mill. Coal prices do tend to jump back and forth over the years, but even in the default 1960, when coal costs roughly the same as iron, it still represents a lion's share of the mill's expenses. And if we buy all the coal we need instead of mining it, steel profitability drops to 53%, provided we consume the resulting steel domestically. It is a huge dip, no doubt about it, but 53 is actually comparable to what the meat combine earns, so it's not exactly a trifle. Iron is less of a concern price-wise, and just buying it instead of extracting will only reduce the profit rate of steel production to a very respectable 78%. Finally, if we imagine the worst of the two worlds and the only domestic resource we have is the rugged hands of our workers, the profitability dives as low as 39%. It does sound kinda pathetic, but it gives us yet another data point that we'll soon use to see how important steel is in practice. But first, let me do some number crunching for the more perverted members of our audience. What if, instead of coal and iron, we import coal ore and iron ore? They are cheaper, aren't they? Well, setting aside the disastrous logistical implications and the fact that the plants that process the ore into iron and coal are the most expensive part of this whole industry, the idea does something. The processing plants don't really create a lot of value, but they still add 6 to 8 percentage points to the profitability of the whole steel combine. But is that worth almost doubling the amount of raw materials you have to move in order to satiate the already massive appetite of the steel-producing monster? My answer would be no. To be terribly honest, importing even refined iron and coal isn't exactly viable in practice, mainly because of the atrociously slow aggregate loading times at customs. It takes 1 day to load 100 tons of aggregates in a train. It takes 5 days to do the same in trucks. And a full-capacity steel mill wants 575 tons of the stuff every day. Which means that fully feeding this gosh darn contraption will require you to have 5 or 6 trains loading the coal and iron all the time, and 5 or 6 loading spots in your customs, which you probably need for other stuff, or don't have in the first place. Meanwhile, a humble Class 350 locomotive with 5 big aggregate wagons will take you back $500,085. 3 trains like that, and you've got yourself the cost of the entire steel combine. So I wouldn't expect the locos to get you steel al cheapo. You'll be served better by clicking on those construction tabs and building those mines. But first, let me be the devil's advocate here for a second. We know that our republic needs steel all the time for all sorts of things, and the benefits of making your own steel are obvious. So perhaps we could find some sort of a middle ground that doesn't involve the steel mill reaching full capacity and cranking out 43 tons every day. I've looked at the steel consumption statistics for Arab map from 1970 to the year 2000. During that time, our people grew from 20 to 40,000. They completed vast construction projects and even operated industries that consume steel, like electrical components. Across these 30 years, the Republic took in 23,000 tons of steel. That's just over 2 tons a day, or 5% of the steel mill's maximum output. To give you that daily amount, the mill only needs 25 workers and a modest dose of just 29 tons of raw materials. And as we found out in our conveyor conference, you can comfortably move that much with 3 or 4 dumper Tatras, even counting the slow loading times at the customs. The steel mill itself is not a prohibitively expensive structure, so why not build just the mill and slice 39% off your steel purchases? The same steel purchases that consistently force you to borrow money in the first decade or two of your development. At this rate, the steel mill does take a sluggish 37 months to pay off, but we have seen far slower burning investments. Oh, and since I know you'll ask, the steel recycling plant does exist. It is another source of steel. It is 6 times cheaper than the mill, but with imported scrap, its profitability is less than 2.5%. So whatever benefit it may generate will be blasted out of the exhaust pipes of the trucks moving the trash. But let's go back to that 39% profit rate though. How about we look at examples of real construction to see how much of an impact this cost advantage creates. Back in our construction industries conference, we built a leafy model neighborhood of 10 top-of-the-line apartment buildings, shopping center, school, kindergarten, cinema, police station, all of the roads, cables and pipes, and of course, the sport hall, which naturally is where they put all of the steel. Today, it's the home of many TV stars, but back in 1985, it cost 500,000 rubles to build. 41% of that was imported steel, and just having a steel mill working on a meager ration of imported coal and iron would have knocked 80 grand, or 16% off that neighborhood's price. And if you mine your own raw materials, the benefit spikes even further. However, there's always gravel-based construction industries which reduce the cost of that neighborhood by a more substantial 28%. Though there isn't much you can do to increase this figure, and the cement plant alone costs as much as a steel mill. So investing in steel might get you more bang for your buck in the long run, even with residential buildings that don't really need a lot of it. Now let's look at the industrial end of the construction spectrum that famously loves it some steel, preferably piled in giant stacks. And we might as well look at the chunkiest kid of the bunch, the aluminium combine. We talked about it before, and we know the efficient minimum set of buildings for smelting aluminium. And we can call it the minimum set as much as we like. This won't diminish the tremendous amount of resources you have to bury into these structures. While steel took up less than half of the cost of a residential estate, here it's a massive 76%, more than 3/4. And if you do have that steel mill cranking out 2 tons plus a day, you will shave off almost 1,200,000 rubles, or just under 1/3 of the cost of the entire aluminium combine. That pile of cash can buy 3 more steel mills to make friends with the one you've already got. Granted, building the combine takes thousands of tons of steel, and if you run the mill at 5% capacity, it'll take you 4 years to deliver the requisite amount. Plus, there's plenty of steel to be spent on conveyors and stuff that I don't even want to think about. But frankly, time isn't of the essence here. Aluminium is the biggest thing out there, and it took a well-developed Soviet Republic of Arab map almost a decade from leveling the construction sites to actually exporting aluminium. In a time frame like this, even a seriously undercapacity steel mill can make a real difference. Meanwhile, having a set of gravel-based construction industries only reduces the cost of aluminium combine by a couple percent, although it does make the whole process far more quick and convenient. So the conclusion is obvious. If you want cheap growth, you've got to stop worrying and learn to love the steel mill as early as you can. Don't mill about and start with a single steel mill not far from a customs station connected to a separate storage facility for steel and each of the inputs. Adding such facilities to factories is good practice in general, but here they will enable easy future connections to any mines and processing plants you'll eventually build. So there we are. And you know what? This is a very good time to grow a bit tired of all this heavy industry nonsense. And some of our ministers have sure been thinking of knitting some socks for winter holidays. And speaking of holidays, maybe we should all get on a train and spend some in a picturesque village on the other side of the mountain.